Hello.
Morning.
Hi.
Morning. Hi, Ari. Welcome to our stand-up.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to show my code today.
Awesome. Yes. Yes.
10, line 10 says print, hello, quote. Line 20 says go to 10.
That's a good start. We will have to leave you comments on how to go from here, Ari.
I was invited. Do I get to observe?
You get to observe. You get to comment, and if you're interested in learning how to write a PR, you can also pick up an issue and write a PR.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you.
Hey, welcome everyone. It is 11:05, and first order of business. This is now part of the OpenSSF calendar. So you will see that the meeting gets recorded automatically, and then the other magic stuff will happen and get posted to YouTube as myself and Steve Taylor figure out how that works. But yeah, one more topic I think Steve Taylor we should take up later, administrative, is that when I invited people, it actually invited the whole Google group. And I was wondering if there is a way for us to invite the development team and then have other people join as they would want to, not just bombard people with the invite, or do I have to just select the people and invite them?
We'll have to figure that out. The Google group notification should only happen once when the counter invite gets created. And it may, anytime you update, it may send out another update to the invite, but that should be about it. But we'll have to take it offline and take a look.
Yeah. Those are a couple of things, just administrative.
Yep.
But since we have a bunch of people, let's get going and do the stand up. And I know that there is at least one topic to discuss after stand up updates. So Google Chrome Pyrsia development board. Okay. So per usual, let's go through who wants to start first today.
Yeah, maybe I can start by saying by talking about the Synapse audit issue. So it's finally fixed. So Yuri and I worked, and Johan worked on it today, based on what Elliot did yesterday. So we did not follow it. We have now a fork of Synapse where we did some changes in the dependencies and passes the audit. And we will now in the pull request that is now checking again will depend on the GitHub repository in the master branch, which should fix it.
Okay. And maybe we should create a ticket to figure out how to go back to the what do you call open source Synapse.
Yeah, well,
for future.
I guess the ticket will then include making a pull request to the Synapse repository, because what else can we do?
Since we've expressed the intention of wanting to move our BitTorrent capability inside of the Pyrsia node, perhaps we shouldn't be concerned about trying to move back to the open source Synapse.
No, we should be good netizens and try and contribute back.
I mean, we should do both, meaning, yes, Mark, I agree that we should figure out how to pull, not all, but the functionality that we require from Synapse and make it our own and make it more efficient or whatever optimum is. But we should also figure out because if this is failing cargo audit, then we should just send a PR to them and say, hey, we want to help out. And in turn, we would like your help in maintaining this better. Okay.
Shouldn't we relate this to the discussion that we didn't plan yet, as far as I know, about dependencies? Which dependencies do we pull in, especially related to security vulnerabilities? I think that's something that we have to discuss. But a library with such a vulnerability lost all his trust, in my opinion. But we probably need some general rules.
Well, I'll call out, we actually had signed struct depended on Chrono as well. So we already had the vulnerability even without Synapse. So that was the last piece that Yori fixed, and so he refactored that to also only use time RS. So totally removed the dependency on Chrono, but we had it as well.
Which I think makes it even more urgent that we have a discussion about security, because this can really bite us very hard.
Let's table this for a second. I just want to make sure that we go through some updates. If there are other updates than this issue, if this is the central issue, then we can continue discussing.
Oh no, absolutely. I just wanted to finish my update, which is I worked with getting the code up to the point where they were able to take it over and get it working. So thanks so much for making that happen, guys. Really appreciate it. Yep. But that's what I was working on too, though, obviously.
Okay.
So I was yesterday working on standing up a Synapse node on Google Cloud. Steve has offered to do a large part of that work. He's been waiting, I believe, for the Synapse fork so that he can put in some of the changes that he needs, just stuff like the Docker file and that kind of thing. And in the meantime, I have been working on some of the gaps that we have in tickets for getting done what is in our gap analysis. So I'm working on the last of the tickets that is needed to satisfy the image replication. And for the CLI and the installation, I don't know enough to write the tickets. So others should take a look at that and make sure that we have tickets to cover those.
Yeah, thank you for adding. So these ones, right? These are the ones you added yesterday. I think which are marked as triage. Yeah, thank you for adding them. I think we need somebody to do that typing job and make sure that we capture that before we figure out how to implement that. Okay. Anybody else has a stand-up update?
I'll go real quick, following on what Mark. So I've stood up a Kubernetes cluster in GKE. The disk, the volume, it has been created, and I just need to add in the service and the deployment, which is going to be pretty simple. I did rework the Docker file for Synapse because it was trying to, what Mark was running into is just trying to grab it from the host, which was on the Mac side, and putting it into a Linux container, and it just wasn't going to work. So I reworked it to build everything in the container, and
nice.
So we have a clean container for Synapse. It's just the last two little steps I have to put in for the plumbing. Okay. Once I deploy it, I will let you know what the new public IP address is, and then we can do DNS after that.
Okay. Nice.
But for me, yesterday I completed the basic communication between different nodes about the blockchain. Yeah, today I will implement add the configuration, the information to the Genesis block. Yeah, then the different node could sync the blockchain. Yeah, that's all.
Any more updates from you, Chris and Christian, on the blockchain work?
Well, I'll give mine. It's brief. The default example from Tendermint just utterly doesn't work and is busted. So I'm going to try an alternative way to their use case. I think I can get it. Should be fine. But that's my status is I've stumbled onto more broken code on the internet. In fact, there's probably a dozen open tickets with Google's gRPC repository related to my issue and basically not solved. So I have another idea. I can move forward.
Okay. Chris, do you have anything to add? We can't hear you. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Oh, that's so unhelpful. I've been making leaps and bounds on my hackathon, but I have to shift gears today. I need to work on the technical blog, and I need to get set up so I can be the backup for tomorrow's demo.
Yes, thank you. So thank you for queuing me.
Yeah. As much as I'd love to attend, I'm not going to be very helpful, but I'll try to see if I can run anything.
So on that note, so Erwin, thanks for your help yesterday. I was able to run the Docker setup, running the Pyrsia node within Docker and then pull through and do the Docker commands. And I was able to see the logs as well, and to show that Nginx is downloaded and Alpine is downloaded, etc. And I was able to actually turn off the internet and still make the functionality work. So that is the wow factor, right? That you don't have to be connected to Docker Hub to do your internal organization stuff when you have Pyrsia running. The second part, I ran the CLI and it showed me the information that it knew. Like it knew that, oh, there are 0 peers connected and here is the disk space used, etc. So I'm going to show those two parts. And I worked with Elliot this morning in getting the peer-to-peer stuff to work. Where we found one issue is that when we run the Dockerized version of Pyrsia node, it is not able to communicate to the peer. But I will send you separate information on what we tried and what did not work for the Dockerized node. So I got the peer-to-peer stuff
I can tell you right away why it doesn't work.
Okay.
I know exactly what the problem is. The Docker bridge network doesn't support MDNS, which is how we're discovering peers. So you can't use Docker and Discover at the same time, at least not out of the box.
Okay, that's good to know. So I'll use that to sort of explain where we are in terms of peer-to-peer development. And then when I ran the same setup with 2 peers running on my Mac, I could see the traffic and the gossip happening and peers connecting, and CLI reflected the state of affairs. So I intend to show these 3 things, and then I'm setting up Synapse so that I can show some of the BitTorrent work. But if not, I'm going to ask Elliot to just showcase if he has a better setup than mine tomorrow. So I'll show these 4 independent things and hand wave stuff around what we are doing to integrate these and make sure the end-to-end flow works. So that is what I'm going to cover with the CTO office tomorrow.
Does that mean I can hide and not attend, since you seem to have everything set up? Because I have nothing set up and I don't know how anything works anymore.
Okay.
I haven't touched it in months, right?
Yes. So you can take a rain check.
Oh, thank God. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any stand-up-y things that we wanted to share in terms of status? If not, then we can go to the elephant in the room and talk about those things. No? Okay. So coming back to the situation that we have is that we are using Synapse. Synapse depends on Chrono, right? And then Chrono has a vulnerability. So from the history, we decided to use Chrono at the time because we did not want to reinvent the wheel for handling times and dates. And that's what my suggestion was. And Chrono was failing or showing a vulnerability, like Elliot mentioned in the chat, and it was not a security vulnerability, but it could cause a crash. And then whatever crash does to the system. So that is how the vulnerability could be exploited. And we had said at the time that we understand this vulnerability, let's use this library and work with the people who built this library to get that fixed. Now it has affected another part of our system, which again we know that it's a point-in-time decision, right? We picked Synapse because we wanted something to do the wow factor in the demo, and then we are going to work through that to figure out how it could be actually optimized for Pyrsia. So I believe people work through that, and Johan, you wanted to say something, and we stopped you because we were doing stand-up updates at the time. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's just a general remark that we should be very, very careful about any library that has security vulnerabilities.
Which means any library generally.
Well, with CVEs, I mean, so if they have a CVSS score, then it is a problem, because then they are out there and they are script kiddies, and this is attacked in the wild. So this is way more dangerous than undocumented issues.
I didn't mean to trivialize it. I mean, a denial of service attack surface is still a denial of service attack, but that's all it looked like to me when I reviewed it. It was like, oh, if you modify the locale while the process is in the middle of making a local time check, then you can cause a crash when it tries to read beyond the string that gets returned. And it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, that's probably not great, but really?
Well, and the thing to keep in mind is exactly what are we supposed to, do about it? Like, unless there's a fix from the library themselves, our alternative is to go evaluate others, hope they don't have similar or worse issues.
It's actually worse than that. It's actually worse than that. So the code is actually from libc. So it's actually the C runtime that's standard in every OS that's compromised.
So then there's nothing to be done. And every one of these vulnerabilities needs to be taken each and every one case by case. And
case by case, yeah.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. I think everyone should just get comfortable with the fact that we are going to push out an app that has vulnerabilities. We're going to try like hell not to. They're just going to be there, and we're going to do our best to mitigate them, but we need to be judicious. Like saying, oh, geez, this library has a vulnerability, stop using that. Well, that says what we don't do. What we need to know is what we do. So we need to solve these in the affirmative, not the negative.
Well, I think I disagree. But I'm used to the Java high quality bar. And if this would be mentioned in different projects, there would be absolutely no option that this would pass. I think
there's
at the moment that there are users out there that are using this software and their computer crashes because they are using our software, that is extremely bad publicity, I think. And this especially because what we're trying to do here is to provide trust and to guarantee security and safety and so. And if we can then be attacked in such a easy way, and 3.5 is really not low. This is a damn vulnerability, and this should be addressed. And what worries me the most is that this is out there for quite a long time and the library is not yet patched. And that is something that I do not understand. So, I mean, the maintainers of that library they got these warnings as well.
Well, so
and typically when you see this, you fix it immediately.
Do you mind if I go first, Christian?
Yes, sir. So please go for it.
There's two really fundamental things here to understand. The Rust toolchain sucks, and it doesn't actually know if we have the vulnerability or not. So in practice, we don't actually suffer from the vulnerability. And in C and C++, the static analyzers are actually good enough that they can tell that segment of vulnerable code is in your application. The Rust toolchain cannot. So the Rust toolchain will just complain even if we're not susceptible to the attack. And we don't use the vulnerable function, so we're not susceptible to the attack. So it's unfortunate that how well we can maintain that high level of quality is severely negated by the lack of support in the toolchain.
Well, it's an interesting point you make, because the recurring theme that I'm noticing is every time that Rust tries to include some C code, the C code turns out to be some kind of a problem in many cases.
Yes. So the vulnerability is in libc, right? Which is the basic C runtime that ships in all Unix systems. And that has been broken for almost 20 years. And no one has found a way to fix it. And no one wants to fix it because then it's going to break all the distributions. So This particular vulnerability is one of those that like just exists in the world and everybody has to deal with. And either you don't compare your time to the local time and you only use UTC time, which is what most applications will do anyways. And that's been the known workaround for decades. So it's not an easy answer. There's no good answer. And we're going to hate what we do no matter what we do.
No. I think, yeah. Hey, Steve, do you want to say something?
Yeah. So one of the things I found dealing with the security vulnerabilities is that Alpine doesn't depend on glibc. So Alpine has subverted most of these by not using glibc by default. Now with Rust, I don't know underneath the covers if Rust can, use Alpine without bringing in glibc as part of its dependencies, as part of its processing. But that may be something that we want to look at is looking more about that running on Alpine instead of Ubuntu.
Right, which uses muscle lib, which is lighter and leaner, but comes with its own set of compatibility issues since it's not tried and true glibc.
And potential vulnerabilities. I'll also point out if there's the last option, which would be relibc, which comes from Redux, which is an entire reimplementation of libc and Rust. So, I mean, the problem though is, and whenever you pick one of these new tools, it's not so much that there are zero vulnerabilities, it's there are no known vulnerabilities, but also nobody has really looked into their code in a lot of cases.
Yes,
that's why they invented Rust.
Well, I think I honestly think, but I guess I'm probably alone, that this, in my opinion, is a reason not to use Rust. This is one of the reasons. But anyway, that was one of the very few. And granted, we had lots of freedom, but using Rust was a given. So we have to live with that. I think it's extremely dangerous, but I think. And I agree, there must be much more vulnerabilities than the ones that are documented. But the CVE libraries, databases they are popular, they are known. If there's a vulnerability in there and you don't do anything about it, then I think you're a bad citizen. And regardless whether the issue comes from the underlying C library, I think that it shows how serious a library maintainer is. If your library has for a long time a known vulnerability and you don't do anything about it, then that does not give trust.
I am kind of shocked that nobody has forked Chrono and fixed it. I mean, there are no suggested replacements for it either, which kind of is shocking.
It's because the only fix is to just disable that function. That's the only fix that exists.
Hey, so I think all of these viewpoints are valid, and the fear is correct. But I want to just bring something to light. So we have picked Rust, and by the virtue of that, we are dependent on libc for better or for worse. And like Chris mentioned, libc has had this issue for many years, and fixing that has its own problems. So we cannot expect that to be fixed.
But there is. Sorry. Before
I want to finish. And we do encounter these kinds of situations where there will be flags that will tell us that there is danger ahead. But then we should do our assessment and figure out, is there really danger? And then pause and then put our perspective on it and explain that decision to people. In this situation, like Chris mentioned, if we are going to use UTC time all the time, then this vulnerability will never manifest itself, and that's what we should tell people, and that's how we should record this decision. And given where Rust is in terms of its maturity, I think it's really too early to compare it with the Java ecosystem and other ecosystems which are more mature in handling these kinds of things. Although we can do our own groundwork to make more noise in the Rust community, join there and ask these questions, like why have people not fixed it? Because if it has been there for a while and people are still using it and building production code, then there must be reasons, and we should bring them back to the community and share with our community, saying, yes, there is a vulnerability, here is an explanation, here is some background research, here is how it would affect you, but none of those flows are used in this system. And that's how we mitigate it. And then over the course of time, we should figure out if Chrono is not the best solution, because we are currently in the experimental phase and we want to make things work. So we pick the best option, which is probably the only option, even based on my research, for doing time and date manipulation in Rust. And then if we want to invent the wheel, then we have to spend separate time. But now is not the time to figure out, if we should parse our own times and dates and write that kind of code. We need to focus on, what our goal is, which is coming up with a demo, coming up with an MVP that can be put out there with known information about CVEs. And that is also, that is not a technical solution, but that is also an engineering solution to a technical problem.
Would a good compromise here, like we already have the exception in place, what if we add a basic lint check that just makes sure the compromised function is never called in our code base, and we can just fail CI if it's called?
So they've Yori already refactored the code to not even use Chrono anymore. So
I understand he did that in Synapse, but we still have, we're still using the Chrono package, and Chrono exceptions are already enabled.
No. That the exception and the use of Chrono and the exception were removed as part of Yori's pull request.
Yeah.
Sorry. I see there is main. Sorry, Suhendra, to cut you off, but so I haven't followed main, but last I checked, in main there was security audit exceptions, and one of them was for the Chrono package.
He removed that. Was removed.
Yeah. Okay, so since Chrono is already there, I think it's a good idea to add the linked check, and also write a public document like a blog saying that this is what we did and about this vulnerability. That is also something we can use to showcase what we are doing in the Rust community, and tell people how we are solving this biting problem, because anybody who uses Chrono will see this problem if they are using cargo audit, right? And then we should share with people how we are handling it and what is the right way to handle. And then that is an opportunity to write a longer blog which summarizes how this whole thing manifests. So I think we have to do all of that, meaning do some engineering, write about the engineering, and justify how we are making decisions.
So one of the things I would suggest for a next step is that we get the pull requests kind of sorted out here so we can get in
other PRs as well.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of PRs kind of backed up. So I think we need to get in the one with the fix and then go back through and merge on our forks that update, and then repush to the PRs. And if somebody can just go through and reapprove everything and get everything kind of caught up here in the right order, I think it'll help us move along.
So for sequencing, from what I had heard, the only thing that might potentially, Erwin, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but they wanted the Pyrsia Synapse fork, the one that's going to go onto our tree, merged first, and then merge Yori's fix with the
that has been merged already.
Okay, but is it pointing to his branch, or is it pointing to the
Pyrsia Synapse?
Yeah, that's pointing to the Pyrsia Synapse. But
beautiful.
But that's the good news. The bad news is that cargo build failed on something I did not check during the stand-up, but it failed. Something with a log file. I don't know. Somebody knows the out-of-head solution.
So first fix the build,
Yeah.
And then take the PRs in an order. Does anyone know the order? Do you want to put it on the Pyrsia team channel? So that
for the open pull request, you mean?
Yeah, for the open pull. If there is another order that we have to keep track of. Then we should just.
Well, who's first is lucky, and who's next has to fix conflict.
No. One of the important thing is Yuri's PR, right?
No. That is a given. Yuri's pull request has to be merged, because otherwise your pull request will fail.
So that has to go green first, and then if it is, even after that, if it is like whosoever comes first, that's fine. But we have to make sure at least that is clear to people.
I mean, I was going to say I have a PR that's like one line, but is a very, very low priority. So I'm not even going to worry about it right now.
Yeah. No, let's get Yuri's PR in the right order. If you're having trouble with the log, Arvind, just let's start a discussion on the team channel and see if you need other people helping out.
One last question: who removed Chrono from main? Or
Yuri?
That's this pull request. That's the pull request we are going to merge. That's pull request 274.
Yeah, to use time RF.
So it is not yet removed from main.
No.
Yeah, sorry. My sequencing was a little off there. I thought it had already gone in.
Okay.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. Thank you for clarifying that. Oh, okay. Now everything makes sense.
Okay.
I can see clearly now. What's that song called?
Yeah, I was working off of his fork. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
So can somebody hit merge?
No. Be my guest, but I'll post a link to the next issue on the Slack.
Yeah. So what is next? So there's still okay. Johan, have we what do you call address the concerns for this moment, and do you think we should have another conversation to follow up on our strategy around what zero dependencies mean, or how we handle or sensitive issues like CVEs?
Yeah, I actually think it would have been better if we first had the general discussion, because it's always when you have this discussion with a very concrete thing, then people react differently. I mean, I'm typically way more pragmatic when there's an urgent need for something. And therefore, when we have a general discussion, that would help. Now, I do understand the pragmatic needs, of course, and it also doesn't make sense to have a general discussion where we come up with strong principles and then never follow them. Yeah. So I am okay with a general discussion, but I'm not sure that it makes sense, because in the end, we probably are going to be pragmatic when it happens again. So
yes, so I usually wait for incidences to trigger such things instead of just having a general discussion in hypothetics, right? And then in hypothetics, we'll say, hey, we are always going to operate in zero dependencies. But when reality hits, that's when you see the situation and you are able to adjust that understanding to that situation. So now this incident can be used as a trigger to have that not a very general discussion, but a pragmatic discussion of what are the pragmatic steps we can take if we encounter something similar.
Well, and I don't know if it would have back to the original alternative, but like I do know there is a muscle target on x86 64 Linux. Like you can install the tool chain and say target equals x86 64, unknown PC muscle, and it'll link against muscle libc. Now
script says Ubuntu though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
The demo script says Ubuntu, so
doesn't matter what the host name is on the triplet. If the end thing is muscle, it'll use the muscle libc if it's there. But my point is back to I don't know if the tool chain's smart enough to go, oh, you're linking against muscle libc, so you don't have this vulnerability. That was my point. Was like, I don't even know if we said, oh yeah, we just link against muscle, so we don't have it. Would that have been sufficient?
No,
probably not.
No, muscle has it too. If I'm quickly reading about it, and it seems that you can reproduce the issue with muscle.
Perfect. Okay, can you reproduce the issue with relibc? Like if you've linked it, redox as libc. Anyway,
it's not easy to reproduce on glibc, which doesn't surprise me, by the way. But using muscle can easily reproduce it. So muscle is probably not going to fix anything here.
Fix it. Okay. Okay. So one of the things that I haven't done yet is acted on the discussion about PRs that we had during the retro. So I'll set up a conversation around that, and maybe we can discuss how we pick libraries if we do have time, and sort of it might evolve into that. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sudendra, before you drop, I did want to call out. I sent you in Slack a TOML file.
Okay.
That you'll need if you're going to set up Synapse. Or
okay.
I say needs a little strong, but it will help you.
It'll help. Okay. Thank you.
Did you just send that to him directly, or did you put it out for the whole team? Because I need that for.
I will. You know what? I will put it out for the whole team.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry for taking too long. Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Talk soon.
Later.
Bye.